before the current age of elvenkind, before their civilization rose and fell like the great trees of their homeland, there existed a time of pure harmony. The gods, in their boundless wisdom, looked upon the world and saw a need for a gentle race, beings who would tend the forests and safeguard the balance of nature. It was then that they crafted the Elenvara, the firstborn elves whose souls were shaped by the soft creatures of the forest, the curious deer, the watchful owls, the playful foxes, and the serene butterflies. The Elenvara were different from their descendants. They were not warriors or kings, but caretakers and companions to the woodland creatures, with skin like bark and eyes that glowed with the soft light of the moon. They moved silently through the woods, speaking with the trees and guiding the creatures in their care. Their language was the rustle of leaves, their song the whisper of the wind. Gifted by the gods with ageless beauty and wisdom, the Elenvara could merge their spirits with nature itself. When they walked, the grass grew greener and flowers bloomed in their wake. Animals sought their presence, for they exuded warmth and peace. The gods delighted in their creation, for the Elenvara embodied the gentle soul of the forest, living in perfect unity with nature. However, the gods' grand design would not last unchanged. The world grew restless, and darkness from distant lands began to creep toward the forests. The Elenvara, gentle by nature, were ill-prepared for this growing threat. They sought to defend their homes, but without the desire for conflict, they could not stand against the encroaching forces. When the gods saw their children's plight, they wept, for they had given the Elenvara their pure hearts, but not the means to protect themselves from the harshness of the world. In time, the Elenvara faded, their spirits returning to the earth, becoming one with the trees, the rivers, and the winds. Yet not all were claimed by the embrace of the natural world. A few remained, fragile echoes of their former selves, tethered to the land but no longer eternal. Their once boundless magic waned, and the darkness that crept through their forests grew ever nearer. For years, the Elenvara lingered, desperately trying to protect their homeland. They whispered to the trees, urged the rivers to rise, and called upon the animals to stand beside them. But their gentle nature could not withstand the overwhelming tide. As the shadows spread, their forests withered. The once lush groves turned brittle and dark. The birds no longer sang. The deer no longer danced through the meadows. The Elenvara watched in horror as the land they were bound to, the land that had nurtured them, became tainted. The last of the Elenvara, hearts heavy with sorrow, could no longer deny the truth. They had to leave. It was a decision that tore them apart. They had never been separated from the land. Their souls were interwoven with the roots of ancient oaks, the rhythm of the rivers. Leaving felt like severing a part of themselves, a wound that would never heal. But the gods had not abandoned them. As they stood on the edge of their dying homeland, the gods whispered to them once more, "You are our children, born of peace, born of nature, but now you must learn to endure the storms that come. Take with you the love of the earth, but temper it with the will to survive." The Elenvara, though broken-hearted, found strength in the divine words. They gathered what little remained of their magic, binding their memories of the land into seeds, flowers, and water droplets they carried with them. As they journeyed away, their feet trailing through the ashes of their former home, they knew they would never return. The land, once their sanctuary, had fallen to the shadow, but they carried its essence in their hearts. They wandered for many moons, crossing vast plains, scaling mountains, and fording rivers. At times despair gripped them. what was a life away from the trees that had sheltered them for millennia. But their will to persevere burned stronger. They would not fade, as their ancestors had. The gods had given them purpose, and they would honor it. At last they reached a new land, wild, untamed, and untouched by the darkness that had consumed their homeland. This land was fierce, with towering mountains and deep, mysterious forests not yet shaped by gentle hands. Here, the Elenvara vowed they would begin anew, but this time they would not rely solely on the protection of the woods. They would prepare themselves to withstand whatever darkness might come. With their remaining magic, they called upon the spirits of the forest once more, but this time it was not only to nurture but to fortify. They planted the seeds they had brought from their homeland, watching as trees took root, but also as they forged new alliances with the wild creatures of this land, great beasts and fierce birds of prey. The rivers flowed strong and clean, but they learned to bend them to their will when needed. The forests were vast, but they built homes deep within them, blending the natural world with the skills they now hold. The Elenvara became survivors, protectors not only of the land, but of themselves. They crafted bows from the trees, learned the ways of the sword, and wove magic that could both heal and defend. Though they remained connected to nature, they no longer relied on it for all their strength. They had the will of the gods and the wisdom of their losses to guide them. And so the Elenvara rebuilt in this new land. Though their hearts still ached for their lost home, they understood that their destiny had shifted. No longer would they be passive caretakers of the world. They had learned through pain and exile that to protect what they loved, they had to be prepared to fight for it. In time, the Elenvara would become legends, spoken of in hushed tones by those who would come after them. They were the first elves, born of the gods' love for the forest, but tempered by the fires of survival. They would never forget the home they had lost, but in this new land, they found the strength to not only survive, but to thrive. From their sorrow, a new civilization arose, one stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever darkness might come.